Why do social scientific outside observers care so much about social structures? Mainly because it's important for the kinds of knowledge and understanding social scientists are trying to get. This is why one basic question for this approach is, how is the group we're studying organized? And it's related to another basic question: how does that organization affect the way people behave? And it's the source of ongoing investigation to learn how those two things, organization and behavior, structure and behavior, influence each other. Because people made those structures. Why? Why those? Why not others? And now that they have them, how do they shape the way people behave? And again, why? Why those ways and not others? So social structure plays a central part in most social scientific explanations. And that's why Craig Martin devotes a central chapter to it in his book, A Critical Introduction to the Study of Religion. First of all, societies all have structure, which is a word that just means some definite arrangement of parts or a pattern of organization. It's a word that comes from the Latin word struere, meaning to build or to make by joining together, so it might make us think of a building. And we know that how a building is built helps explain some things about how people move through it and what people do and don't do in it. People don't walk through walls, for instance, and these days people don't take baths in the kitchen, but they might spend a lot of time on a deck in the summer. So social structure provides possibilities as well as constraints. Similarly, social structure seems to help explain why people do some things and not others in their day-to-day lives in a society. It seems to create social barriers and invitations and possibilities and off-limits areas, and these are some of the patterns social scientists are interested in and try to understand. How do those patterns happen? What are they, and how do they work? Religious groups have their own specific structures, the typical social structural features that Craig Martin identifies in A Critical Introduction to the Study of Religion. Some of those generally include things like group boundaries, who's inside the group and who's not, and how can you tell, status hierarchies and positions in those hierarchies, assigned behaviors for things like roles and identities, or the kind of proper behavior that we associate with good manners or good morals, all of which apply to religious groups. For instance, Christian baptism and Christian communion help establish the boundaries of the Christian community. If you've been baptized or you take communion, you're an insider. If you don't, you're an outsider. Different branches of the Christian church have different status hierarchies and clergy positions and lay positions. And moral guidance is part of the Christian religious structure, as are different prescriptions for dress and hair, etc., in different parts of the Christian world, like the long hair worn by these Pentecostal women. But in fact, because religions are internally diverse and because they change over time, religious groups often show some different structural features in different places at different times. Which means that one of the things scholars of religion get interested in is what has stayed the same over time and what has changed. How does the same religion change in different places? How are those patterns related to other social factors? For instance, the structures of the societies and cultures in which these religions are embedded, the ways of life in which these religions are an integral part. Alternatively, the social structural perspective may be interested in different religions in the same place and time. For instance, why do Jewish synagogues and Muslim mosques and Christian churches all get organized so similarly in the United States in 2020? Could it have something to do with the social structures in which they find themselves? So the social structural perspective allows the outside observer to look at religious practices and religious structures and ask about their social function. We remember that the social world feels natural to people, even though we know it's been human-made, so it's a little bit changeable. The question is, just how changeable is it? So we're interested in how social structure uses religious practice. For example, the structure in a Buddhist, Theravadan Buddhist society between monks and householders, and how that structure affects human behavior. Or how the institution of the monastery, which accepts boys like this around to the age of 8, and how that helps families who send their children to the monasteries to learn to read and write and be housed for several years, how that helps shape the society. So looking at things from a structural perspective also helps us understand their social function. The main point is that this structural thinking is a basic building block of the social scientific explanations that help us understand religion as seen from the outside.